Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to a very, very special feature report on behalf of WFUV Sports. I am Jack Warner. I serve as a New York Mets beat reporter, a New York Rangers beat reporter, among several other things here at the radio station. And today, I'm going to be taking you through my conversation that I had with Baltimore Orioles center fielder Cedric Mullins at Yankee Stadium. Now, if that name doesn't quite ring a bell to you, then roll the clip.
Tip your cap, Cole Irvin. Tip your cap, everybody. Cedric Mullins, insane in center.
Are you kidding me? There's no way he can get to this ball. He's shaded to right center field, but lay out, Cedric. My gosh, you won't see a better play maybe this entire week in baseball.
He just concluded his 7th season in the MLB, all of which with the Baltimore Orioles. He's been a Silver Slugger Award winner, a member of the 2023 Team USA World Baseball Classic team, and a 2021 MLB All-Star that in that very season, he was also the first Oriole in franchise history to have a 30 home run, 30 stolen base season. So it's quite clear Cedric is a force to be reckoned with on the baseball field, but in all honesty, that was the very least of the reason that I decided to approach him for an interview and to do this report. Cedric is someone who I've looked up to for quite some time now, and the reason for that is because he and I were both diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which, if you don't know what that is, it is an incurable chronic intestinal disease. And I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old, and I've been receiving treatment for it ever since. So I've always been fascinated by Cedric Mullins, particularly due to the real, physical taxation that the disease can have on someone, and yet he's excelling at the highest level of baseball. So I met up with him before a September matchup against the New York Yankees to talk to him a little more about his experience and just learn more about the guy. So without further ado, Cedric Mullins, everyone. Jack Warner from Fordham University's WFUV Sports here at Yankee Stadium with Baltimore Orioles center fielder Cedric Mullins ahead of their 3-game set with the New York Yankees here late in the regular season. First of all, it's almost playoff time. How you guys feeling in the clubhouse right now? I know it's pretty exciting, the season coming to a close, but you guys got some big games down the stretch here.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think the best part is we got some guys that have been injured coming back, and it's exciting to have them back, and we're just ready to roll.
Now, Cedric and I have something very much in common. I wish it was talent on the baseball field, but unfortunately, that's all you. Cedric and I both were diagnosed with Crohn's disease. If you don't know what that is a chronic autoimmune disease that affects the intestines and the lining of the digestive tract. Cedric was diagnosed back in 2020. I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old back in 2017. So that's why he's here today. I wanted to talk to him about his journey, about being a Major League Baseball player who also happens to have Crohn's disease. Now, I want to start back in 2020 when your diagnosis happens. You finish the season. You have to have a surgery done. You remove between 10 and 15 centimeters of your intestines. You lose around 20 pounds. Could you just walk us through what that experience was like, having to work back into getting into shape for a professional baseball season right after your body going through all of that?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. I think the biggest part was just kind of understanding where my body was at as a starting point. Knew I had lost a decent amount of weight. The program I'm with back in Atlanta, P3, they'd done amazing work with me and was able to get me going.
Was there ever a concern, like when you were first finding out about your diagnosis and really going through the things that you were feeling, physically, was there ever a concern that it was possibly going to be career-ending?
Honestly, that thought really didn't cross my mind. I didn't know the level of significance that I was dealing with. I just had my focus on getting healthy. Things really just lined up the way they were supposed to get me back on the field.
Now, you talk about not really knowing the severity of the disease. The question I have for you that is kind of similar to my experience was it felt like when I had first heard about Crohn's disease when I was diagnosed, I knew nothing about it. I never heard about it, didn't know anything about it. And granted, there's a lot of things you don't know when you're 14, but it felt like once I started telling people I had it, the community slowly grew. Either someone had a family member with it, someone had a friend with it, somebody knew someone with colitis, which is very similar. Did that happen to you? Did you have a similar experience? And what was your experience like learning about the disease and educating yourself about it once you realized you had it?
Yeah, I had almost an identical experience. I first was introduced to the term back in when I was 18. So I was still in college when I first was told that I might have Crohn's, but it didn't really sit. So, time had passed, the body was feeling relatively good. I didn't really do too many checkups or anything. And 2020 came around and I just started having to deal with all kinds of ailments that felt like they were starting around my core. And like you said, like as I put my story out there of, me dealing with this, there were a ton of people that reached out and were telling me their experiences as well. And it was pretty cool to see, just the gathering of people to, stand up to it.
Now, on a very similar timeline to you with your diagnosis and going through, your experiences with first having the disease, your teammate Trey Mancini was also going through a battle with colon cancer, even going through chemotherapy treatment. What was your relationship like with him during that time? And was there any wisdom sort of shared between you two both going through things at the same time, especially diseases that, while differing in severity, affect a similar part of the body?
Yeah, me and Trey have a great relationship. Still talk to him to this day. I kind of kept what I was dealing with close to heart away from him, just in the sense of I didn't feel like I was in a life-threatening situation compared to when you hear the big C. So all of my support and all the fan support was focused on him, which was exactly what I wanted, because he's a great dude. He definitely deserves everything, and it was great to see him come out of it on top.
Now, you come back from, your diagnosis, you go right into that 2021 season, and you make the All-Star team. You're the first Oriole to have a 30-30 season. When you look back on that year, everything you had just recovered from in the offseason, all of the training that you had to go through to get back ready for that season, do you look back on that season with any added triumph because of the things that you endured before heading into that season, like aside from baseball performance?
Yeah, 100%. Along with COVID and just the world dealing with the pandemic at the same time, my thought process during that moment was, okay, if we have a normal season in 2021, my goal is to be able to play throughout that whole season. The adjustments I have made during the offseason just to, get myself in baseball shape. And, I was working with the training staff and the coaches, and, when I said, hey, I'm good to go, it was just kind of one of those crazy seasons where everything was falling in place.
Could you just briefly touch on your involvement with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation? I know you have been involved with them, regionally around Baltimore, but could you just kind of expand a little more about what exactly it is you do with them?
Yeah, for the most part, it's continuing to raise awareness. I think it's definitely made a name for itself in terms of the understanding of what the disease does and what it has done to a lot of people. But the second thing is continuing to put money into it. That's what I do. I work with Big League Impact to support the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. For every win, I donate to that cause. And, I think it's fun involvement. It's my second year doing it. It's been really fun.
And then lastly, what would be your message to any, young athlete, even adult athlete that is trying to pursue the sport they love, but maybe going through some of the experiences of whether they're finding out they have Crohn's disease, whether it's diseases similar to Crohn's disease, IBD, any of those sort of very debilitating diseases that could affect someone's physical activity, but they really want to go pursue their favorite sport? What would just be your message to any, person going through that kind of experience?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, there's a chance that I could have avoided the surgery altogether had I just listened to my body and, let someone know that something felt off at any given time. But things happen the way they did, and I would just say, to stay positive. I think that's kind of what led me to be able to continue to play. I didn't really think of the negative sides of it. I continued to think on, the future and just me being in good health and, just learning from it, understanding what I can and cannot do, just, for most part from an eating aspect and, taking things into the body. So just continuing to try to stay healthy.
Cedric, your story has inspired me and so many others. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. He's starting in center field tonight for the Baltimore Orioles. Tune in tonight as the Orioles take on the New York Yankees. For WFUV Sports, I'm Jack Warner. So that was my interview with Cedric Mullins at Yankee Stadium about being a Major League Baseball player with Crohn's disease. The Orioles would go on to win that game that night. And I just want to give my sincerest thanks to Cedric for the time he was willing to give me. He's such an insightful, humble, kind person. And I had, such a bevy of questions for him, and he was so thoughtful in his responses and never made me feel like I was a burden, made time for me, before batting practice. And the craziest part about all of this is that this report almost didn't happen. And this is another testament to how wonderful of a human being Cedric is. I met Cedric at Citi Field in August for a series against the Mets. I met him in the clubhouse, and the Orioles clubhouse before the game, and we agreed to do the interview on the field at Citi Field during batting practice. I get his attention, we do the interview, and I come away from the interview with no audio. if you're looking at this B-roll that I'm playing on the screen right now, I didn't mute that. My microphone malfunctioned, and I lost all of the audio. And this was something that meant so much to me that I was absolutely crushed upon learning that had happened to me. And after a conversation with Orioles PR, where they were able to sort of speak to Cedric on my behalf, he very thoughtfully agreed to do another interview with me a month later at Yankee Stadium when they came back to New York City. Just the raw kindness that he showed to me was very hard to fathom, and I'll forever be grateful for the opportunity to do this with him. And I'll echo what Cedric said in the interview, and that is that you should always be willing to seek help if you're ever having bodily discomfort or abnormalities. You know, the health and well-being of yourself and your loved ones is the most important thing in this world, and you owe it to yourself to live as healthy and as fulfilling a life that you possibly can. And if you look at the lower third on the bottom of the screen right now, you will see a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it's going to send you to the website for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Please, by all means, check it out. You can learn more about the disease. You can learn more about regional chapters of the foundation. If you would like to donate, you can, but obviously there's no pressure. Just viewing and learning about the disease is more than enough. And, you know, this disease has the ability to ruin lives. While it is not necessarily a terminal disease, it changes people's lives forever. And there's currently no cure. So any steps that we can take towards educating the public about what it is that makes Crohn's and colitis unique and in some ways dangerous, you know, the more steps we can make towards hopefully one day finding a cure and finding proper prevention. And lastly, above all else, I just want to dish out some thank yous because I think there was just so much, this was such a special project. There was so much gratitude I had shown to so many different people and so much kindness displayed from so many people. Like I said, thank you to Cedric Mullins for your time and grace. It's a crazy experience getting to interview one of your heroes. There, I said it. Heroes. He's one of my heroes. And the fact that he granted me the time not once, not twice, I mean, not once but twice, excuse me, shows that, you know, he's just, some things to him are bigger than baseball. And like I said, just an absolutely unbelievable human being. So I was such a blessing to get to talk to him and meet him. To Bobby Chaffardini and WFUV Sports, who always put me in positions to be creative and put their trust in me to represent them while having conversations with some of the greatest athletes in the world. To our station manager, my roommate, and my dear friend, Lou Orlando, he really did kind of set me up to go to Yankee Stadium after the Citi Field debacle went sideways. I texted him in a panic, and he said, let Orioles PR know that you can go to Yankee Stadium. I'm not even one of our Yankees beat reporters, but Lou was so on his feet that he was like, tell them you can go to Yankee Stadium next month and do this again if possible. So always grateful for him and his friendship and his, you know, quick on his feet thinking. To our assistant manager and another dear friend of mine, Will Talent, for helping me record the interview at Yankee Stadium. To our very own and another dear friend, Kurt Sipple, who's behind the boards right now, you know, video and radio producing this for me. To Brandon Quinones, the PR representative from the Orioles who spoke to Cedric on my behalf to reschedule the interview. He was so nice. I talked to him at Citi Field, and he could, you know, he dealt with me when I was in like a very, very serious panic trying to figure out what to do. You know, he addressed all my needs and spoke to Cedric for me, you know, kept me in the loop on everything. And then it was really nice getting to meet up with him again at Yankee Stadium after the interview was done, just to give him, you know, a thank you to his face. But I'll give him another one right here because he really was one of the MVPs in this. And last but not least, in fact, far from least, the furthest from least you could possibly be, my family, who has supported me through all the ups and the downs of my health journey with Crohn's disease over the past 7 or so years. You know, there's never been a time where I was, you know, concerned that I would ever not get the treatment I needed or not get the love and care that I needed. And it's because I have the people at my home base that I do. My sisters, Catherine and Ava, and my mom, Karen Warner, my dad, Tim Warner. They're the best family that you could ever ask for. And I'm truly the luckiest guy on earth. But that's just about it for this very special feature report. Cedric Mullins, the man, the myth, the legend, the Baltimore Orioles center fielder who really did make me feel so seen as a baseball player with Crohn's disease. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, for WFUV Sports, I'm Jack Warner.